Hello everybody and welcome to The United Stand. It's Friday Night Live, it's Friday Laid Back Live, and we will be taking a lot of your questions tonight, but lots and lots to get into. First of all, we'll be talking about this Alexis Sanchez to leave Manchester United on loan rumour that's floating around. Very interesting on that. Some little bit of breaking news as well that may be of interest. Some people are really excited about it. For me, I thought it was inevitable and had to happen. Greenwood, Chong, Gomez not involved in the under-23s tonight, so you'd expect them to be part of the first team squad. To me, if one of them had played in the under-23s, I would have been furious. Like, they have to be involved in the first team squad. And remember, the first team squad doesn't mean that you're going to be on the bench either. So let's wait to see what happens with that. Also, what else was I going to say? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Some talking about what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's future at Manchester United will be. There's this rumour that if he has a bad start to the season, he'll be sacked by Christmas. Lots and lots of things out there this evening that would not be the case, and that the owners, I suppose the Glazers, realise that Ollie has got a big job ahead of him, and you know, as long as it's like not mid-table relegation battle, he's pretty much nailed on to stay in the job for this season into the next transfer window next year, which I think is quite encouraging. But let's start off with this Alexis Sanchez story. Also want to say as well, Fantasy Premier League, we have got a United Stand Fantasy Premier League. The link is in the video description for that. It's got a code. If you play it, you can get involved in the United Stand Premier League, and maybe we'll sort out a shirt or something like that. And also, I'm going to be doing my Premier League preview on That's Football straight after this. Link in the video description for that, so make sure you pop over and give that a watch. Right, let's start off with this Alexis Sanchez story then. Look, I sort of want to leave transfer stuff behind, but it does say latest transfer news down there, and actually, you know what? The transfer window may have shut in England, but it hasn't shut anywhere else in Europe, so there will be, like, Darmian's got to go at some point. Maybe Rojo can go abroad. He didn't go to Everton. Maybe he could go abroad. Pogba's a very interesting one. I've actually had a couple of people say to me today that Pogba might still leave Manchester United. I have to say on Paul Pogba, it cannot happen. It just can't. I mean, look, I'm sure he wants to go. Can you blame him for wanting to go? We've not improved the midfield. In fact, it's worse than the midfield he played in last year. Can you blame Paul Pogba for wanting to go? But United cannot let him go. I mean, if Pogba goes, you've got four midfielders. Fred, McTominay, Pereira and Matic. I mean, that midfield's not even as good as bloody Bristol City in the Championship. So we cannot let Paul Pogba go. We can't let him go at all. The thing with Pogba is it's going to be interesting to see what his injury record is. The board given assurance he won't be fired however the season goes due to lack of transfers, says Gordon Murray. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a moment, Gordon. But let's talk about Alexis Sanchez then. So there was a little bit of talk this afternoon that from Roma, from sources around Roma Football Club in Italy, that Alexis Sanchez had been offered to Roma on heavily subsidised wages that United would pay. And it sort of caused an interesting debate in the fan base. My initial reaction to it was excitement. A lot of people was like, oh my God, what would we do if we lost Alexis Sanchez? We've already lost Lukaku. You can't let Sanchez go. But my thought was, well, you know what? Manchester United have tried to sell Alexis Sanchez this summer. They have tried to sell him. They just can't do it. Nobody will pay those wages. 400 grand a week. No one's going to pay that. So United have had a real problem moving Alexis Sanchez on. And on top of that, there is a feeling that Alexis Sanchez wants to leave Manchester United as well. He's not settled, doesn't really like it, and wants to move on. So it's a bit like Lukaku. There was this amicable thing going into the summer that if a move could be found, neither party would put up resistance. The problem is Lukaku probably had a couple of teams after him wanting to pay the full price for him. Alexis Sanchez, who is probably a better player than Lukaku, to be fair, but because of the poor form he's shown, but more importantly, the big wages he's paid, United have not been able to offload him. So the story of him being loaned to Roma isn't foreign. It is because it's in Italy, but it isn't foreign because United have been trying to move Alexis Sanchez on, and Alexis Sanchez is open to that move. The situation now is, though, if Alexis Sanchez was to move and United play 2 up front or 3 up front, basically they've got Martial, Rashford, Greenwood, Lingard, Chong and Daniel James. It's you know, you actually do need Alexis Sanchez in there just for the numbers, really, and then the hope that he'll become good. So I can't see that United would do that, but I would be pretty excited if we did, because it wouldn't be long before you would be seeing Gomez, Greenwood and Chong playing, because literally our first choice would be Martial and Rashford and probably Daniel James. So it would be exciting in those terms. But I just don't feel United, now that Lukaku's gone and not been replaced, I don't see United doing that. However, what I would say is that when you think of it like this, Manchester United can still sign Llorente, and we were linked to Llorente, and Llorente is a free agent. So, you know, stranger things have happened. I don't expect Alexis Sanchez to go. I don't know what you lot think. Let's get some of your comments about that. I don't expect him to go, but it wouldn't overly surprise me, because I think United and Sanchez wouldn't be that bothered if they did part ways. Who is to blame? Glazers out, yes, but offer money, or Woodward, who doesn't back the manager? Ray Clowley. I mean, look, we'll never get a definitive answer on that, unfortunately, because Ollie said today in the press conference that he was, you know, that money was there if he wanted it, but I'm not convinced by that. I think ultimately if you look at the owners of football clubs, so if you look at Jack Walker at Blackburn, Sir John Hall at Newcastle, the Manchester City owners that came in with ambitions of clubs that were small, like Blackburn Rovers and Newcastle. I think they were in the Division 1 when they were taken over. They got promoted, and then Blackburn won the title, Newcastle didn't. I love it if we beat them. And Manchester City were a poor club that were taken over and then won titles. So I think if you've got owners, it's difficult to blame Ed Woodward, because if you've got owners who just come in and say, I want to win Premier League titles, there's 300 million every summer, then you're going to buy players. You're going to buy duds, you're going to make mistakes, but you are going to have that appetite running through the club. I think, people want to blame Woodward, but ultimately I think it comes from the owners and the appetite they've got to actually win titles. And when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer says, we want the right player here, we want the player with the right attitude who wants to be here, and we couldn't find that, so we stuck with what we've got. I don't think you get that sort of a mentality. I don't really think you give two hoots about right mentality, right player, if you've got loads of money, because you just go, you know what? Dybala might be a risk, but he's a very good player. There's the money. So it's a mentality thing, and it's a mentality that's led by what you call value for money. They don't want to spend that much money. Okay, is the super chat here coming in from Nick P. Says, by the end of the European transfer window, we might actually be in profit. Great news for the board. Our forward line is thinner than Kate Moss. Oh, and Eric Govana says, do you think we will rediscover early Ollie form? You know what, personally, let's just talk about Ollie for a moment then. I did want to get a few people talking about Alexis Sanchez and whether they would think about him going, but maybe we can do that in the QA in a minute. Look, when it comes to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the feeling is, and Gordon Murray says, I've read the board and given assurances he won't be fired however the season goes due to lack of transfers. That was the one I wanted to go back to. I've read this as well, that Manchester United are basically saying to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer that his job is secure no matter what happens this season. Within reason. I think if you lost 10 games in a row and you're in the bottom 3, he's going to get the sack. But I think if he's 6th, 7th, 5th, he isn't going to get the sack, which is surprising. One of the things, and I'm sorry if I repeat myself here, but one of the things that really surprised me about the lack of money that was spent on the midfield and the attack was that because we're in the Europa League, if we're in the Europa League again next season, most of the sponsors, they don't have to pay us as much. It drops down. So when United have been in the Europa League before, they've spent big to make sure they get back in the Champions League. I don't think United have spent enough money to go, yeah, we've got a really good chance of the Champions League. It's a bit 50-50 at the moment. So that has surprised me. And I just wonder whether the Glazers are going to sell us, but maybe that's wishful thinking. But there is very timely. There is people out there who feel that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be sacked by Christmas. And to answer that now, before the season starts, is quite a good thing to do. Will Ole Gunnar Solskjaer be sacked by Christmas? I would say no, unless something happens like I just said. He has 10, 15 games, where he's struggling for a win. United are in the bottom half of the table. A bit like what happened to Mourinho. He won the title with Chelsea, and then he was sacked by Christmas. You never would have thought that could happen, but they were in the bottom half of the table. So if you are a top 6 club, if you are a Chelsea, Spurs, United, City, Liverpool, Arsenal, and you're in the bottom half of the table come sort of November time, you're probably looking at the sack. So I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would be sacked if that was the case. If he's just continually fighting for 6th all season, he's going to be safe. And the reason he'll be safe is not because the club want continuity. I think they do want that. Not because they want to keep the fans on side. I think it would be because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is cheaper than everybody else, and he's more, Whether it's right or not, from the evidence we've had so far, they've treated Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the same as they treated Mourinho in his last transfer window when he was going to get the sack. They've not really backed him, and I think that they see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as somebody who's so happy in the job, so determined to achieve no matter what they give him, that he's a very, very good option for the owners, because he keeps the fans on side, because he's a legend. He's cheap. You know, he is cheap because his salary is cheap compared to a Pochettino, and also he's cheap in the transfer market because he'll come out after a transfer window where they've only spent about 60 million, and he'll say, look, the money was there if we wanted it to. So he's a very, very good, nice option for the owners of our football club. So I think it would take a lot for him to be sacked. I certainly don't think if we're hovering around 6th come Christmas, his job will be in any jeopardy at all. I think the press will build that up, but I don't think that will be the case at all. Murray, do you think the problem is the owners have seen United can still be a cash cow even without success on the pitch? I think that's a very fair, very valid point at the end of the day, because if you look at Manchester United and the revenue that we're still pulling in, I mean, look, Manchester United football kits, the home kit, doesn't normally get released until August. This year they released it in May. And looking back on it, that was a really cynical thing to do. A lot of people said, oh, it was because it was the 20th anniversary of 1999 and the treble. But ultimately, I think it suited United to get a nice kit as well. You know, it wasn't that long after we'd been embarrassed by Cardiff that new kit came out, and still everyone was like, I like it. And I remember a lot of people saying after that Cardiff result, I'm not buying any merchandise anymore, I'm not doing it anymore. Within 2 or 3 weeks, the same people are on Twitter going, I can't help it, I just love that kit. And the Glazers have probably sat there thinking, this is brilliant. These people will buy no matter what. And if we're ever, if we are ever in any bit of trouble, let's get a retro top out. People will buy that. So season tickets, there's still queues. Like, the away tickets are still balloted. It's ridiculously, there's so much money going into Manchester United, even though all the fans are unhappy. And I don't necessarily criticise that, because at the end of the day, fans are fans. They love their club, and it's a very hard thing for them to disassociate with that club and just go, I'm not going to buy things for my kids and this, that and the other. So it is difficult. George Ramos, Mark, I remember you said Arsenal couldn't afford Pepe. They signed him and Troops mocked you and laughed, as well as DT on Insta. Also tried not to bang the table much if you get angry on United. Look, on that, I don't give two hoots what Arsenal do. I'm going to do my Premier League preview straight after this on That's Football, and I'm going to talk quite glowingly about Arsenal's transfer window because it was good. Nicola Pepe, I just think, I think football, the football community just do silly things like, oh, he said this and he said this. Like, I was told by certain people on the Arsenal Fan TV channel that they only had 40 million to spend. It was a disgrace. That they were going to go and protest about Kroenke, right? And then they signed Pepe and they start looking for videos that me and Rance have done about their club, saying that they've got no money. Like, do you think I lose any sleep about the fact that Arsenal have got money? But the funny thing is, they were all moaning about having no money. But I've seen this with my own eyes. You have. You've seen Arsenal lose on a Sunday, and they've been called CUNTs and everything by certain people. Wednesday night they win again and they're sucking them off. So they're just flip-flops. I've got no respect for people like that. Sarup Chowdhury, and also going back to the banging on the table, I think you're totally right. I really do not want to be doing that this season. I think when you're banging on the table and you're getting pissed off and frustrated with United, there is a bigger picture that's wrong. And I think the bigger picture that's wrong is the board. So why does that cause me an issue with Ollie and the players? However, depends on the team that Ollie picks, because I can see certain players in that team, if they're picked, frustrating me. And you know who they are. Sarup Chowdhury says, Mark, you think he'll ever go all out recruiting players? At this time, our net was 60 million. I have a feeling next year we're going to sell Pogba for 150 and just invest that. Well, that's the thing. Pogba's going to go next year. So if we needed 2 midfielders this summer, when Pogba goes, we need 3. Can you see us signing 3 midfielders? I can't. Do you think Greenwood can solve our right wing problems? And coming to Old Trafford from Canada, how can I find the United stand at the game and meet the players? Says Eric Guerrero. Well, I can help you with the United stand. We're always stood just outside Hotel Football, the Old Trafford side, just over the bridge. Meeting the players, best thing you can do is get there a little bit early and go and stand at the players' entrance, or stay a little bit late when they come out, get a few photographs. Gold, peace, prosperity. The earth is flat. Sanchez is a blocker. Get him out so long as we lose less money net. He is old, cannot get back. His speed, and we need pace and dynamism of the likes of Greenwood and Chong. I've said this before. I said it on my preview. If you've not watched the preview this afternoon, do give it a watch. I want to see Manchester United playing Greenwood and Gomez as soon as possible. I really do. I would. You will get so much patience out of me and other United fans if that was to happen. Ray Cowley, we make so many pounds a year and can spend only 70 million a year. Who can we sign? Who can this be a better director of football? I read something today that United are going to renew their search for a director of football. But my fear with the director of football is it's going to be a Rio Ferdinand or a Darren Fletcher, somebody who's got no experience, who again is just somebody that the fans are going to go, yeah, we love Rio, this, that, and the other, but they don't actually have the skills to do the job. I would rather we appointed somebody from Real Betis who I've never heard of, but he's got years of experience as being a director of football and recruiting players and young talent. That to me would be good. There is a rumour going around that Pogba's injured. I think it's just people in the live comments and on social media trying to scaremonger. I mean, look, going back to that, I was told a couple of times that Paul Pogba is still angling for a move from Manchester United. I'm not even going to really debate about it because I just know United won't sell him because the midfield's just too weak. But what I would say is, just because United aren't going to sell him doesn't mean that Paul Pogba is going to be easy to manage this season. Paul Pogba could be sat there this Friday night absolutely fuming. Absolutely fuming. Lukaku's got his move. The midfield, Herrera's not been replaced, and he's going to have a harder season than last season because he's the only decent midfielder that we've got. He could be sat there tonight thinking, I have absolutely had enough with this. You know what? Season opener against Chelsea or not, my back's still hurting, I'm not playing. And you could get a bit of, bounce back. A bit of the barriers go up with Pogba, and it's like, yeah, I'll play when I want to play. And that's a massive problem for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And to be honest with you, if United knew that was the situation in June, there was plenty of time to do this. And that was another thing as well. In June, I tweeted out, when Pogba said he wanted to leave, I said, get him out of my club. About 2 weeks ago, I said Pogba's got to stay after one of the pre-season games because we just haven't got time to do it. Somebody put that out and went flip-flop. Like, an opinion in June when he says he wants to leave to an opinion at the end of the transfer window when we can't replace him. That's not being a flip-flop. That's life, people. Opinions change. Like, you know what? You might get up tomorrow morning, walk past Pret a Manger, smell a bacon sandwich and go, oh, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I'm never going to eat one of them. I'm a health freak. I don't want a bacon sandwich. 3 weeks later, you might have been out the night before, had a few beers. You wake up in the morning, you're hungry, and that's the first thing you eat because your mindset changes. The one thing that is absolutely nailed on with the human nature is that your opinions are there to change. Otherwise, life would be very boring. So with Pogba, I'd be disappointed with United. I'd be more angry with United if Pogba started pushing for a move, injuries, not interested, because United should have seen that coming. If he's staying because they know United's, like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said, his attitude's been brilliant on the tour and he's committed to the club, Fandabby-dozy, that's brilliant. But if he doesn't, then United had an opportunity in June to get rid of Pogba. And they didn't need to sell him now. They could have said to him, we will sell you, but it'll probably be around August because the Spanish transfer window doesn't close for a while. But we could have gone and got a couple of midfielders to replace him. So it was there to be done. I just think United are quite a pig-headed club. If you had the choice, who would it be, says Ray Cowley. For what? And Cam Angus says, do you think Fernandes will come in January? No, I read something today, and look, you've got to be honest and say that the club are right. The Portuguese press was so adamant that United was signing him, and then Spurs were signing him, and they threw Liverpool into the mix. I think the Portuguese press, to be honest with you, come out of this with very, very... look, no one's going to trust them again, are they? But that's not where I was. It wasn't the Portuguese press that I was believing. I was believing the Portuguese press because I'd already been told stuff by people who weren't the Portuguese press. So I was like, oh, they're obviously going to get it right. But the Portuguese press also said that Spurs were in for him and Spurs never bought him. So maybe, maybe Spurs were never in for him. Maybe we were never in for him. I think what actually happened is, as I said over the summer, Bruno Fernandes had this this contract where if somebody offers over 35 million euros for him and Sporting Lisbon turn it down, they have to pay Bruno Fernandes 5 million euros. So that was always like, for clubs, they couldn't barter. They had to figure out what the price was, because if you went low and Sporting Lisbon refused it and then paid 5 million for Bruno Fernandes, they're never going to sell him then anyway, because they've just done that. So I think Sporting Lisbon wanted a certain price. And actually, looking back on it now, I think the worst thing that happened for Bruno Fernandes was João Felix going to Atletico Madrid for 100 million. Because that pricked Sporting Lisbon's ears up, quite rightly. They were like, hold on a minute, João Felix is 19 and he's going to Atletico Madrid for £100 million. Bruno Fernandes is an established first teamer for the Portuguese national side. He's playing in a worse team than João Felix, and he's got better goals and assist stats. We want at least 65 million. And I think they felt justified in wanting that. But I think every other club in Europe was like, yeah, he actually isn't worth 65 million. It's the Portuguese league at the end of the day. He's not, 50 million maybe. And I think that's what went wrong. I think Sporting Lisbon probably wanted too much than anybody else would pay. But they felt that it was justified because Atletico Madrid played 100 million for João Felix. But on top of that, Bruno Fernandes can still leave Sporting Lisbon. He could go back to Italy. Their transfer window's open. He could go to Spain. So I'm not convinced 100% that Bruno Fernandes will still be a Sporting Lisbon player next season. Sorry. Do you think a director of football will come in, says Cam Angus? I do think one will come in. I just don't think they'll have the control that a proper director of football should have, if you know what I mean. Anyway, fire some of your questions in. I want to take some of your questions. It is Friday night. It's chill out time. And make sure you subscribe if you're new. We're getting very close to 530,000. I would just want to give everybody a big, who's watching the show live, I just want to say you're the hardcore fans. This happens every year. The transfer window closes and you lose 50% of your viewers. Like, what? I'm not knocking them, and maybe they're watching Liverpool play Norwich as well, but it happens every year. I'm chilled about it, but it just makes me laugh how people are so engaged in the transfer window and then it closes and they just lose interest in the most important part, which is we're actually going to play games. And I think that that's the most passionate time there is, when you match reactions and your fan cams and your watch-alongs. But it's each their own, and it's a Friday night as well. But so you are the hardcore watching live tonight, and if you're not watching live because you had other things, we like you as well. Director of football or whatever, your choice if you had the control. Ray Cowley, my director of football would probably be the Mitchell guy from RP Leipzig. But to be honest with you, as I said, just somebody who's got technical experience of being a director of football, recruiting players, and that'll do me. Yeah, they don't have to be somebody I know. Please do smash a like on the video, everyone. Let's see if we can get 1,000 likes while we are live. Steeler fan says, Mark, I love the channel. Thank you for all you guys do. Question, how big a size do you have your United stand jerseys? I'm a big dude. Haha, thank you. Well, to be honest, this is I tend to wear the black one as a pyjama top because it's just like, it's nice and it's a good fit. But I have medium of everything, so this is a medium, and it's a good fit as a medium. So yeah. Ryan Coben says, I have herpes. Well, get yourself down to the doctors if that will help. Norwich are rubbish. Yeah, Norwich were always going to get smashed tonight. It was never worth watching. Some people are saying it's 3-0 to Liverpool. Yeah, Norwich. Look, I'm going to do my Premier League preview after this. I'm really looking forward to talking about the Premier League as a whole. But I'll tell you now, spoiler alert: Norwich, Sheffield United, and Brighton. Down you go. Don't pass go. Don't get £200. You're off. You're gone. You're absolutely gone. And until Norwich play us, and then they'll probably win. We stand with the United stand, says Tasman. Yeah, let's get into some of your questions then. Glazers out and 7th or 3rd, says iGalaxy. The director of football from Leicester, Fergie put forward, says Mehel Tajura. Yeah, I like him. I can't remember what his name is, but yeah. Edu is the sporting director at Arsenal. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that on the Premier League show. Whoever Dortmund's director of football is, says Bish Faji. I mean, we had a very good person, didn't we, from Juventus, and he left very quickly to go to St. Petersburg, and I forget what his name was. I think it began with an R. Somebody in here. You're all geniuses. You'll know straight away. But he left in frustration very, very quickly. The thing is, I think you sort of don't want to believe that our board in relation to recruitment of players are just money motivated. But there's plenty of evidence out there of ex-scouts who said, I put this player forward and they ignored me. That Juventus guy who came in and left very, very quickly. I don't think Manchester United want a director of football who actually is in charge of recruitment and has the final say. United want to retain that final say within their current structure. Second time Ollie says it's minority fans not happy with the way the club is run. I'm saying if we don't react to the board won't change, says Anup Alipan. I'm going to come back to that. And it hurts, says Ryan Coburn. Go and have a nice bath. Bazu Raddy says, any free agent midfielders, strikers, Manchester United can sign. I know that Llorente is free. I don't know about anybody else. I heard Marquisio, someone like that, but definitely Llorente. And Ray Cowley says, January crap transfer window, but who would you sign? Look, a lot of people keep talking about the January transfer window, and I want to go back to Anu Pan's point as well. A lot of people talking about the January transfer window, and what I would say is, the January transfer window is notoriously difficult to sign anybody of any who's good, because if they're any good, they're going to be playing for a team that's either still in the Champions League or the Europa League, or they're in they've got a lot going on in their domestic league. So they're probably not going to want to go till the summer. Plus, their club's not going to want to sell them. So the only sort of signings you can do in January are players that are sort of playing for clubs that are crap, or players that are coming towards the end of their contract and the club that they're at says, "Oh, we'd like to have a bit of money for him." The one that jumps out to me that's similar to Alexis Sanchez would be Christian Eriksen. In January, if he hasn't signed a new contract with Spurs, he is a free agent in the summer. But why would Christian Eriksen, who wants to go and play in Spain in January, say he wants to go to United? Because in January, he can talk to clubs outside of the Premier League. And he's going somewhere for free, and he's going to get a big payday. So I don't see Eriksen happening either. Going back to what Anu Palipan said about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer talking about the frustrated fans being the minority. I don't really think he said that, but it is the second time he said, when I've spoken to fans, they're really positive. Like they are the sort of majority, but they're not. What happens there is, it's like, you know what? If you're a fan watching United play at the weekend and Matic puts in a bad performance and you're there going, what a prat, but then you see him on a Monday and he's there for an autograph, you're there smiling and going, nice one, Matic, you had a good game at the weekend. That's just human nature, isn't it? So I think that these people that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer comes into action with, and let's not forget, when we were in Perth and Ollie's going up the escalator, there was Flex having a bit of a laugh with him. It's positive, isn't it? Because people want to be positive with a legend who's our manager, who we love. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, when he comes into contact with fans, I guarantee he's not lying. It is positive. But you don't have to scratch the surface much to find the fact that fans are very frustrated as well. He knows that. But as I said this morning, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer can't sit there and say, yeah, we're really concerned within the club. We're really concerned and worried about the fans and how frustrated they are, and we don't know what to do. He can't say that. He's a manager, and he's not just managing a football team. It's managing expectations and the media, and that's what he's doing. Do you have an ideal centre-back to partner Maguire? I think Sully from Bayern would be great, says Ben Goodman. I think we've already got the ideal centre-back. His name's Victor Lindelof. He's the Iceman. Or Twansibi. So look, I don't see United needing to sign another centre back. I'm particularly excited about Harry Maguire playing tomorrow. To be honest, playing on Sunday actually. He's exactly my sort of centre back. I love people who are dominant in the air, and having a player like that, I just can't wait for us to have some corners on Sunday against Chelsea. I'm not saying he's going to score, but I think corners are suddenly going to become exciting. Whereas when we do the watch-alongs throughout the season and over the last 2 or 3 years, it's a corner to United and you say, just give them the goal kick, it's a waste of time. And we won't be saying that anymore if we can get some good delivery in. I think Martial is happy being given the number 9 back after how it affected him when it was taken off him and given to Ibra. That's from Gordon Murray. Yeah, I should have said that sooner actually. Anthony Martial has been given the number 9 shirt back. The number 9 shirt that he christened by destroying Liverpool on his debut. And he had a very good season when he played in the number 9 shirt in his debut season. So I'm happy that he's back in it. I think his branding's AM9, isn't it? I don't really care about that. But I'm happy that he's back in his shirt, in the number 9 shirt. It shouldn't. I didn't agree with it being taken off him in the first place because, look, Zlatan's a legend of the game. But Anthony Martial had a very good season for Manchester United. He's on holiday. He's coming back for his second season. There's a new manager and he's had his shirt took off him. People at the time said, oh, it's only a shirt number. It was bigger than that, though. It's, for some people, the shirt number is very important. But not only that, it was like, here's my new manager, and they're sort of doing that to me. So I always sympathise with Martial on that. I'm glad he's got it. And the funny thing is, if he does have a good season, people will say it's because of the number 9 shirt. George Ramos, Mark, remember when we spent the most money this transfer season? Surprisingly, also, what does the lovely Mad Marcus think on our transfers and season? I don't know. He's on Twitter, mate. Ask him. I haven't asked him about that. We do have a little bit of contact every now and again, but he's doing his thing, chilling out, Mad Marcus. So I don't know what he feels about transfers, to be honest. Charlie says, as an Arsenal fan, I think you should keep Alexis and play him in the middle in a front 3. It was in that position he played his best football in an Arsenal shirt. It will be interesting to see how we utilise Alexis Sanchez this season. I've got to admit, it will be interesting because I just don't want him playing off the left. I don't think it helps Luke Shaw. I don't think it helps Pogba. But playing centrally, his lack of pace might be quite a good thing, but not on the wing. Oh, not really even on the right anymore. Ray Cowley says, rephrase, could Fernandes be done in January as such? I don't think United will do the Bruno Fernandes deal now. I think the club sort of washed their hands of it in the last couple of weeks of the transfer window, to be honest with you. Anup Alipan says, every transfer window, we say 250 million budget. We need to realise that this board won't spend unless club notices fans are unhappy. Arsenal have just 50 million and they have 4 signings. Even Arsenal can make signings. Look, reminds me on May the 1st next year when we're doing the Transfer Daily, or even in the month before it, and we start talking about Ollie's £250 million budget. Whatever happens next season, I'm just going to say he's got 70 million to spend, because the last 2 years, we've thought United were going to spend 200 million. They've not even spent half that. So next year, I don't care, because we went into this summer with everybody saying, all the media outlets, United will spend at least £200 million, and we've spent 70. So next year, I don't care how much bravado and rumours there are, I'm just going to say we're going to spend 70 million. And then if we spend anything more, it's pleasantly surprising. But we'll make 150 million next summer off Pogba anyway. I'd take Marquisio, good box-to-box midfielder, says Mark Hempstead. Is he a free agent? If he is, I would take him. I don't know whether he is. And we got a super chat here from Dipanshu Kumar. He says, what about your forfeit that you will wear any Man United clothing if we didn't sign a midfielder? And do you think Sanchez will play anywhere except left wing? I don't remember that forfeit. I don't remember the forfeit. I said if we wouldn't sign a midfielder, but if you can show me proof of it, I don't shirk a forfeit. And do you think Sanchez will play anywhere except left wing? Well, look, the one thing I always said last season was that it felt to me that he would be a player that that has it in his contract that he's got to play on the left wing. That's how I always felt with Alexis Sanchez, if I'm honest with you. So yeah. Apparently Alisson's just gone off injured for Liverpool. James Garner's just scored a great goal, says Palmeiras beats. Well, look, hopefully he can get some game time this season as well. We might need him. The midfield is weak if we get a couple of injuries. Dante White says, watching Liverpool is driving me more angry. You know what I feel about this season? It's almost like, you know when a season ends and then you have the summer and the new season starts. I remember United used to win the league in May. You'd have the summer, and then in August you never knew we were going to win the league again. It was like a new challenge, and different teams had developed in different ways. I feel that this summer it's just a continuation of last year. Like, yeah, Chelsea have got a new manager, but they're going to be fighting for 4th. Arsenal have spent a bit of money, but they're going to be fighting for 4th. Spurs have spent well, they'll be going for 3rd. And Liverpool City will go for the title. I just don't feel that there's going to be any change. I think Liverpool and City are just going to blast the crap teams every week. Okay. What do we got? Shivesh Singh says, funny thing about Sanchez, Ollie did not even talk about him as an attacking option in his conference. Talking about replacing Lukaku's goals. He only talked about him when he was specifically asked about him. I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer really wants Alexis Sanchez there, but most managers have to have players at the club that they want to move on, that they can't move on. And it's about getting the best out of the situation, isn't it? And that works for Sanchez as well. Maybe he doesn't want to be here, but he is here. And he's got to work hard in that situation. Andrew Chow, Mark, give me 3 names we may sign in January. Also, would you say Arsenal has had an on-par transfer even better with us than this window? I'm going to answer that question, Andrew, on the Premier League preview, which I'm about to do on That's Football. And I'll pick that up first on that stream. But 3 players I think we could sign in January. Mate, I don't even know. I don't even know, because they've got to fit a certain category. I'm not saying we would do the deal, but I think maybe a Wolves player or a Leicester player, that could be done, because they're not going to be fighting for the title. They might be in Europe. Wolves might be in Europe. That sort of a signing, you're not going to do anything significant, I don't think. Norwich are definitely going down, Mr. E143. They've come up, they get the parachute money when they go down, and you yo-yo. That's what you do. We can still sign free agents, Paul HT2 as well. Rory Hartnell says about FIFA. I'll talk about that in a moment for you. Right, thanks everybody for watching tonight. Please subscribe and smash a like on the video. It is Friday Night Live. For those hardcore people watching live, remember we are live every night at 8 o'clock. We don't close because the transfer window closed. We're hardcore on the United Stand. Real fan opinion for real fans. So make sure you're watching us every night at 8 o'clock. I'm now going on to That's Football to do my Premier League preview, talking about all the business that's been done, my predictions for the top 6 and the season ahead. So you can join me for that. It's a laid-back show. I'll probably do it off my phone, actually. So jump over and join me on that. I'm going to be live in literally about 60 seconds. Links in the video description for that. If you want to join our Fantasy Premier League team, the link's in the video description for that. If you want to get yourself some United Stand stuff, the link's in the video description for that. I'll see you on That's Football in a moment for the Premier League preview. Jump over there and join me.